Painters for the kids. For more information or to register, go to polarbearrunwalkforautism.com.
Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism is Saturday, February 18th at JFK and the Boardwalk in Sea Isle City. Registration is from 9:30 to 11:30. Run Walk starts at noon.
Any day you can do something for children with disabilities, it's a good day.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
touchdown!
Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here, Tuesday edition of Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And we got a special show because a friend of mine is in the studio. And I'm not purposely adding him to the StreamYard yet because he is in studio, but he is the man, the myth, the legend.
Manny. Scoop B Radio. You know it's official if Barry Bonds said, yo, the best in the business. That's word to Scoop. You either tuning in or reading the word from Scoop. He give you the business. He show you the proof. If Scoop B say it, you know it's the truth. Sports and entertainment.
Yes, Brandon Scoopy Robinson is in the flesh, making an appearance here in the studio. He was at the Sixers Magic game last night, which was in and of itself a very bizarre game. My friend, how are you doing today?
Man, it's good to be in the area, second home. Glad to be here and chat with you. I was rocking with you guys way before National was giving me my just due. So I'm glad to be here with you. I don't travel an hour away for just anybody, but you're worth it. So thank you for having me.
So, by the way, before we get into the nitty gritty, one of my favorite memories with you was the Saturday you and I were on the air together and the LeBron travel fest where people were trying to track where he was going, where he was coming. Was he flying to LA or not? You know, oh my goodness, he's making a pit stop in Cleveland. And I remember having you on, I think it was around 1:00 on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And we were reviewing like the reel of that whole situation.
Yeah, I don't do stuff like that anymore. But that was a very different point professionally, you know, where I was. And I had a very reliable source within where I had them. And I won't put that out there. But what I'll say is back then, LeBron was coming back from vacation in Anguilla.
Right.
And essentially, he was going to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers, and he flew from Anguilla on a personal flight that was actually owned by the family that owns Jordache Jeans. And they flew to Van Nuys Airport and then went from Van Nuys to his home. I won't put that out there, but where he lives. Right. But I had a very reliable source that knew all of those tidbits. And, you know, I'm thankful for that reliable source. And ultimately he signed with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah. So you've been stuck with me, or I've been stuck with you since basically 2017, 2018. Of course, we have to thank our mutual friend, Deshaun Hendricks.
Yes, sir.
Deshaun's out there, doing the real God's work, being a father full time and taking care of his family. Him and I used to co-host here, Hendricks and Hennig, hanging out on 97.3 ESPN. But now you're hanging out with me in the studio. Let's start with this, because the Sixers lost to the Magic last night. And obviously, as Mike Gill likes to say, losing a game on a Monday or Tuesday in January, February is not the end of the world. But from your perspective, what are the 76ers right now?
A top 3-4 team in the NBA's Eastern Conference that just had a bad game against the Orlando Magic. But it's interesting because when you looked at that game in the first quarter, I mean, they were up without shooting any threes. And I mean, I think that's one of those cases where the tale of two halves, right? So Markelle Fultz was back in the place where they drafted him. The Sixers years ago had a chance to draft Jason Tatum and didn't, but ultimately he found greener pastures. And it was a situation where it was a collaborative effort. Like Nobody was checking for Franz Wagner, but they were checking for, Markel Fultz, as well as just a situation where, you're looking at Paulo Banchero, who I think is going to be a monster in the league to come. But Orlando's not a chump team. They're really a team that's just young and figuring things out. And, they got a good win. But I think Philly, they rode pretty high in that win streak. I mean, going in, even before the game against the Orlando Magic, that Brooklyn game, to me, was really a test of who they would be or could be moving forward in the Eastern Conference. It's still very early, but I do like the product that Philly has on the floor. I like Maxey coming off the bench. I like, James Harden and Joel Embiid's chemistry. I really think who Philly is what you saw against Denver. A team that really is a resilient team. And when PJ Tucker scores a few points, they're still good. I think they're a team where James Harden is an all-star, as well as Joel Embiid. And Tobias Harris, man, I think is so underrated in his role. I think he's in a situation that if he was on another team in the NBA, he'd be their star, at least their second or third option.
Before I get to Tobias, something else I want to ask you about specifically is some people are trying to make a connection. Now, obviously, it's a bit of a loose connection because people are saying, hey, when Boston got good last year, it was in January. They went on a hot streak from January on. People are trying to say that maybe the Sixers are in a same vein. Is that real, though? Is that real to make that kind of bridge?
It's interesting. When I was at the finals last summer with Boston and the Warriors, and I asked former Sixer, current Celtic Al Horford a similar question. I asked him, at what point in the season did you know that you knew that you guys had something and you could really kick it into another octave? And he said it was February. He said that and it was actually a game he said against the 76ers, that they knew they had something special. And I look at Boston as that model from last year because, many people said it was the road less traveled. Like they went in the first round against a more favored Brooklyn Nets team that was still without Ben Simmons. I know that name is a curse word in this area. But what I'll say is that it just takes a mindset and it's an adjustment. Like, because how you looked at the Orlando Sixers game as an example of the tale of two halves, a lot of players that I've spoken with have said that, there's two seasons within that one season. It's interesting because you talk to guys across the league. I use this as an example. A buddy of mine, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope of the Denver Nuggets, I asked him recently, if you looked at your season, the bubble season that the Lakers won the championship versus this season, are there any similarities that you find in potential championship run? And he said, yeah, he sees similarities in that Denver team in comparison to that Lakers team. And it starts from training camp and it's like segments. And then I've spoken to other guys like Norman Powell on the Clippers, who says he takes it every 3 games because every 3 games, there's some level of nuance, whether it's injuries, whether it's just guys having a broader connection in practice or while they're on the road on road trips. And so when I look at Philly, I'll be honest, when I looked at the Sixers last season, I really feel like the biggest hurdle for them that they overcame really and truly was the absence of Ben Simmons. I watched them when the first half of the season last year, where they had Drummond, they had Steph Curry, they had, and they were really connecting and then you bring in James Harden, and it didn't take them long to adjust. Really, I look at this Sixers team, and there's 2 seasons to me that I think were a loss. The first was when Kawhi hit that shot and Toronto ultimately went to the finals, and it's like, wow. You saw Embiid crying, and it was sincere. And then it was last season when, what was it, the orbital bone, and he wore the mask?
Yes. Well, there's the year. Well, there's a couple times he's worn the mask.
Well, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about last season.
Right. There was last season he wore the mask, which was brought everybody flashbacks to the first time.
Right. So
when they called him Bane. So.
Exactly. So I look at the Sixers to get back on topic. I look at 2019 and I look at last season. Like Jimmy Butler definitely got the last laugh last season, but I think Embiid was playing like inspired basketball. And I think if I'm the Sixers this year, with pretty much the same team, give or take, um, I'm taking that personally, and I feel as though they do have the pieces, the experience, the mindset, and the know-how. I really think you take a look across the league, you talk to different guys on different teams, and that one of the things I've begun asking guys on this trek and this journey and storytelling now is what are the trends that you find um, to be consistent this season? And the most common answer that I get is there's no clear cut in either conference. And so if I'm Philly, how do you show that we are that team? Gone are the days where it's Golden State and Philly every year. It's excuse me, Golden State and the Warriors Golden State and the Cavaliers every year. Sorry.
Right.
And I think ultimately for the Sixers, it comes down to just the right groove, and Boston hit the right groove. That's an excellent question you asked, because Boston is really that case study.
Game Night here with Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank. And see, I'm being joined in studio by the NBA insider from Bally Sports, Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. Always, you could join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board, and you could DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank. And see how we're talking NBA pretty much the whole hour here. We'll mix in a couple other elements of the NBA aside from just the Sixers, obviously.
And shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Happy for them. Happy for the fan base. And it's interesting talking to Markelle Fultz last night after the game, and I asked him, who do you got in the Super Bowl? He said, I got the Eagles. The last time they were in the Super Bowl, I was here and I was pulling for them then. So happy to see the greater Delaware Valley have something to cheer for with the Birds, and I'm pulling for the Birds myself.
We're going to get into Fultz a little bit later in the show, because there's something that you and I have talked about before on the air about Markelle Fultz, not specifically, but there were a couple things that he talked to you about last night at the post-game presser that I think we need to get in a little bit later in the hour. But back to the Sixers for a minute, because another name you mentioned earlier that I wanted to get to here is Tobias Harris. I think Tobias is having the best year of his career right now. And I know the stats might not say that, but I feel like Tobias has become integral to this team's functionality. He's doing his job so well that it's almost an oversight. People are so focused on Embiid and Harden and Maxey. And oh my goodness, look at Melton and look at George Niang. And there's Tobias Harris hitting the open shots, getting the important rebounds, pushing the ball up for the fast break, setting the screen that nobody wants to talk about, grabbing, for example, one of the younger players on the bench and pointing things out to them. Matisse Thybulle, what do you have? 2 or 3 threes he hit last night?
Yeah.
And Matisse Thybulle said on his vlog a couple years ago, remember when they were down in the bubble, how important Tobias was to his mentorship. And I'm so happy Tobias right now is thriving in this environment because of everything that has happened, not just in Philadelphia, but in his career.
I'll say that when I look at Tobias and I have talked off and on the past week just about his comfortability within the Sixers at large. You see it. He doesn't have to say too much, it. And I think in life, being unassuming is often better than assuming what someone is going to do. A perfect example of that this season specifically was probably that game in the fall against the Brooklyn Nets, where they were without Embiid.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, Maxey wasn't playing.
Harden wasn't there either.
Harden wasn't there. And they really benefited from DeAnthony Melton, who I think was one of the biggest steals of the free agency. Last season, I said this about Brooklyn as it related to them getting Patty Mills. And I look at DeAnthony Melton this year, coming from a Memphis system that was very Ja Morant heavy, and Melton really flowed effervescently within the Philly system so far this season. But specifically to your point about your point and your question about Tobias Harris, I think what benefits him is the fact that he, in today's NBA, he's interchangeable at the 3 and 4 position, respectively. And when I look at Tobias Harris's body of work, he's not new. And in fact, even his journey coming into the league, a guy that from Suffolk County, Long Island, that played at Tennessee and was off used in Milwaukee, and then found his way connecting with Doc Rivers eventually, and with the Clippers. And really, he's within the same system in Philly that he was in with the Clippers. And I'll be honest with you, Montrezl Harrell has the same luxury / problem, because he's familiar with Doc Rivers' system. So I think for Tobias Harris, the benefit is just having that unassuming scorer at will. That also is a low-key playmaker as well. He does so many things on the floor that are a benefit, and he's always been an old soul. It just was a matter of it all coming together. Married this past off season, married his high school, his longtime sweetheart. But also, I think for that team at large, they're just a loose bunch. I'll be honest with you, Matt Cord, the public address announcer for the Sixers, I think he has the coolest job in the world. He's literally T-Pain on the microphone with the Niang. Like I was listening to him last night. He was like he called George Niang bang bang Niang. I was like, yeah, that's new. Yeah, but that Sixers team, man, they're cool to watch. There's a continuity that I enjoy.
He's NBA insider Brandon Scoop B Robinson. Don't forget Scoop B Radio at Scoop B on Twitter. And, of course, the full Scoop B experience on Instagram. We're going to hit a break real quick. When we come back, we'll get more into the NBA. And then a little bit later in the hour, we want to talk about Markelle Fultz. Because Markelle Fultz, to me, is a symbol for a conversation we have had here on 97.3 ESPN in the past about athletes being people. And they're not machines. Because it's something important in today's world that gets forgotten a lot. I'm Josh Hennig here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Yang to Maxey. Maxey drives, turns the corner, down the lane, right hand left, it's good. Maxey with a drive, off the window and in.
It's Sixers magic tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Wait, stop the countdown. It's the final days of the Kia Season of Giving Back sales event. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia, even with 0 down and 0% APR financing for 36 months. Don't see your new Kia on the lot today? That does not mean you can't drive it home tomorrow with peace of mind. Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So if you have a job clearing $350 per week at Matt Blatt Kia, you are virtually approved. So why pay more when you can pay 0% with 0 down?
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand financed on in-stock 2023 Sorento Hybrid. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 1/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 and Tom's River.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air, I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer, unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Action Matters is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention all women who use Tylenol or other medications containing acetaminophen, including NyQuil or Dayquil, while pregnant. If you or loved one took Tylenol, Excedrin, NyQuil, Dayquil, and other over-the-counter pain relievers while pregnant, and your child was later diagnosed with autism, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-718-2034 now. A recent study from the National Institute of Health suggests use of the popular pain or cold medications during pregnancy may be linked to a higher risk of having a baby with autism. New and emerging lawsuits claim that manufacturers knew of this risk and failed to properly warn pregnant women of the potential harm for their unborn children. If you or a loved one took Tylenol or other popular pain relief medications containing acetaminophen while pregnant, and your child was diagnosed with autism, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-718-2034 now. Don't wait. Time is limited to file a claim. Call 800-718-2034. That's 800-718-2034. 800-718-2034.
Hey listener, welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it!
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gotta fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Are you already doing digital advertising sales? Do you know all about targeted displays, social media marketing, the latest in SEM, and behavioral targeting? If so, you could be Town Square Media's new advertising sales star. We are looking for passionate sales professionals to join our media and digital advertising team. If consulting and connecting local businesses with their ideal audience for growth sounds exciting, well, let's have a conversation about you working for Town Square Media. Right now is the perfect time to join our team as an advertising account executive. Our comp package is amazing with unlimited earning potential, including base salary, mobile phone, auto package, 401k match, and more, along with world-class training and plenty of room for growth. If you're competitive, driven, and have the ability to communicate great ideas, we want to hear from you. Reach out to Michael Rubel, Market President, at 609-910-5249 or visit careers.townsquaremedia.com. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by friends over at Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, the plumbing guy. Consigna Technicians got you covered. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, gas furnaces, whatever you need done, just call Jenkins at 609-641-6262. And you can visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. He's still here, NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson, for the hour, hanging out in the studio with me here on Game Night. So let's go a little big picture from just the Sixers, because I think that one of the things that I'm so glad we're having this conversation today, January 31st, is because this is that dead week. The Eagles aren't playing until February 12th. And for a lot of sports fans, let's be realistic. It's not just Eagle fans down here. It's Giant fans down here too. There's a lot of sports fans who they were so in the Eagles, the Giants, all the things that go with that they're almost like just now realizing, oh, snap, there's an NBA season going on. So give me, with the Sixers as part of that, delineation, talk to me about the Eastern Conference hierarchy.
I think the Eastern Conference is in a very similar situation that the NFC East and the NFL is in. They're not dead. They've actually been rebranded, rebooked, and
like a t-shirt,
refocused. There you go. But I ultimately think that for the Eastern Conference and where the Sixers fit, I've always thought that they were in the upper, I say top 3, top 4, in the East. I look at Boston. I think Boston is solid. I think Brooklyn is in the conversation as well. I think Milwaukee is in the conversation, and I think Philly is there. And that's in no particular order.
Right.
I think, but if you ask me specifically of what I think the top 3 teams in the East are, the top 3 are Boston, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. I think Philly is there.
Now, this is how I look at it, and you tell me, you can disagree with me, you don't have to agree with me. I like Milwaukee the most because, first of all, I love Giannis. To me, Giannis symbolizes something special to me. Nothing against Embiid or Tatum or anybody else in the Eastern Conference. But Giannis is this force of nature that just keeps getting better. And it's insane how much he has gotten better, and he's still evolving and growing as a person and a player and a leader. And I feel like as long as Middleton is out there, Milwaukee can beat anybody.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Milwaukee will always be there. I don't think Milwaukee was a fluke in 2019. In fact, I think Milwaukee in 2019 was in a very similar situation that the Warriors were in 2015, where they came to a surprise to many people because everybody just assumed that the Cavs were going to run away with that championship in 2015.
Right.
And you're still looking at Golden State winning rings last season. So I think Milwaukee is definitely a team that are worthy of that. But if you ask somebody further north from here, Brooklyn is in the conversation because Milwaukee was the team that ultimately beat Brooklyn because Harden hurt his hamstring and Kyrie hurt his ankle. So, I think Milwaukee is definitely a worthy opponent. I just think Boston snuck up on everybody like that 4th cup of wine at the holiday party. So I think this is a good problem to have. It's good basketball that's being played. But I definitely do think that Philly is surely in the dialogue for just being there. I think the other thing that stands out with Philly specifically is that not only are they the usual suspects that are there, like the Embiids, the Tobias Harrises, and I even think at this point Tyrese, to be so young but so old, is in the conversation along with Niang and others. But you brought in other pieces like Tucker. I remember hearing Joel Embiid openly talking about in the playoffs what they were missing, and he mentioned Tucker by name after losing to the Heat in the playoffs. And you added Daniel House, who now doubles as a rapper. He hosted he was rapping at the Sixers gala last week.
Video, yeah.
And then he appeared at a club, and DJ Ghost, my buddy DJ Ghost with the Sixers, actually was his DJ for that event. So, but you got I call them the Philadelphia Rockets because you got Tucker, you got Harden, you got House. And I think that really this is a concoction that, it's interesting.
All right, so let me ask you this question, because you just said the Philadelphia Rockets. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because the Rockets, they almost got there, right? There was that game 7 where they couldn't hit a 3 if their life depended on it, and they lost to the Warriors, right? And they were constantly plagued by injury, this, problem, that. So is the Philadelphia Rockets, is that a good thing?
Well, I'll tell you what, they even brought their CEO, Tad Brown, who was very close to Harden during their Rockets days. And then, of course, you brought in their GM, who's the team president now. I'll add this specifically to answer your question about basketball. I know this about James Harden. I don't know if this is common knowledge, but I'll share it with you. James Harden has a full court basketball, or a full court at his home. I don't know if that's known. I know where he lives. I won't put his business out there like that. But he has one of his best friends from high school who trains with him defensively daily. He has another one of his friends that trains him. So when he's not at practice in the gym in Philly, he's in his home basketball court getting up more shots. And it shows that he's being proficient because you're seeing the numbers that he's putting up on the court. I don't know if that's common knowledge, but I know it and he's really taking advantage of his
Are
home.
you saying that Harden's friend is like Shanghai's buddy Mays, only playing defense against him all the time? Like you had that conversation with him on Scoopy Radio?
It's possible. It's possible. Scoopy Radio, make sure you subscribe on all platforms and make it happen. But no, in all seriousness, when you look at what specifically what James is doing, I think what's different in this situation is that it wasn't Brooklyn. And I've openly reported this as it relates to the Nets and them ultimately moving on with Jacques Vaughn. But I know that Harden and Steve Nash were not getting along, and I know that Doc Rivers has a very good relationship with James, as does Sam Cassell. Sam and I go back to our Nets days when I was a kid reporter, and he played for the Nets, point guard for that team. And just his connectivity to the team at large. He's had the balance of his childhood friends, living with him at his home, playing defense, and him getting up and putting up tons of shots daily. So I think this is the clip from the interview that people should pay attention to, because I think it really is something that is significant. James has really dialed into that, focused on basketball. He took less money to play in Philly, so obviously he wants to win a championship and add that to his mantle. And he's definitely set himself up correctly by making sure that he has an indoor basketball court in his home.
All right, so two different things off of that. By the way, Brandon Scoopy Robinson, the NBA insider from Bally Sports, joining us here on GameNight live in the studio here on 97.3 ESPN, at Scoopy on Twitter and the Scoopy Experience on Instagram. Two things. First of all, you mentioned about his relationship with Doc. Talk to the audience for a moment about the importance of relationships in the NBA. I don't think people understand that it's not as important about your out of bounds play. Okay. This isn't high school basketball where you're having to teach the guys, how to run, a 2-3 zone. And you got to remind the kid, he's got to shift over when the ball shifts around the edge. That in the NBA, when it comes to coaching, relationships might be the most important thing, right?
Oh, it's definitely important. I'll use an example related to just at large. Phil Handy, assistant coach with the Los Angeles Lakers. The degrees of separation there. He was an assistant coach with the Toronto Raptors, and was there when they won a championship in 2019. Kawhi Leonard was there. And then you look at the Cavaliers team in 2016. LeBron James was on that team. Kyrie Irving was on that team. J.R. Smith was on that team. And then prior to his stint with the Lakers, this is his second stint. The first stint, Kobe was on that team. I can tell you that specifically as it relates to Coach Handy, back when they let go of Kenny Atkinson as head coach, Kyrie Irving wanted Handy as a head coach. From my understanding, the Nets were not interested in bringing him in, but they were interested in bringing him in as an assistant coach when they hired Steve Nash. Nash and Handy go back sometime because they all, between Handy being in the CBA and Nash playing in the NBA, they all were around the same age group. The Lakers would not grant Handy permission to interview for the Nets assistant coaching job. But they granted Handy the opportunity to interview for the then vacant head coaching job with the Washington Wizards, which they ultimately hired Wes Unseld Jr. The Lakers, from my understanding, knew the connectivity and didn't want to necessarily allow him to go to another team that was considered a competitor. How does that tie back to what we're talking about? I'll tell you. Back when the Nets fired Kenny Atkinson, I know that Steve Nash was not Kyrie and Kevin Durant's first choice. And in fact, from folks that I've spoken with, Ty Lue was KD's first choice.
And really quick, and that goes back to relationships. Right?
So from my understanding, Kevin called Ty Lue and told him, hey, listen, I want you to be the next head coach of the Nets. Are you interested? And Ty Lue's response was, I'm all on board, but you got to talk to Kyrie first. And if you know anything about Ty Lue, he was a head coach with the Cavs at the time, and Kai was on that team. And Ty Lue is considered in many circles LeBron's guy. I don't know if Kai had that conversation with Ty Lue, and from my understanding, any issues they may have had were squashed. But the relationship that trumped every relationship was Sean Marks, the general manager of the Nets, hired his friend, Steve Nash. and it was considered a package
They
deal.
played together.
They played together in Phoenix. The relationship portion is important. It was important to Marks, but ultimately, there were some other relationships that were brought into play. Kevin,
really quick, if I could jump in real quick.
No problem.
You know, the relationship thing to me is more important with the people on the court than the people in the front office. Because look at Philadelphia. Elton Brand was here before Daryl Morey got here, before any of the Rockets people came along, right? But he identified Elton as he's part of this organization. He's put in the work. I want him to be on my team. I want to work with this guy. And so to me, no offense to Sean Marks of the Nets, the GM, I don't care if you have a relationship with Steve Nash. The relationship that's important is the people who are actually on the court, not the conversations you have after the game is over.
Oh, sure. And you saw the relationship part take flight to go back to Philly further south down I-95. You look at PJ Tucker coming in, the Houston Rockets relationship there. You look at Daniel House, the Houston Rockets connection with both Daryl Morey, James Harden, as well as Tad Brown, who, was an executive role. Tad Brown is considered the fixer. He replaced, of course, Scott O'Neal, who was the CEO of Harris Blitzer organization there. So the Sixers have put in the time to create that atmosphere. You talk about relationship. Mike D'Antoni, before Doc Rivers was considered for that job, Mike D'Antoni was a leading candidate to become the next coach of the Sixers at the time. And, he's somebody that Harden does have a firm relationship with, which is why you saw Mike D'Antoni become a lead assistant in Brooklyn, Steve Nash's first year, of course, connecting with Nash and with during the Phoenix days, as well as Daryl Morey. So you see that a lot within, the process of guys finding their way to get guys to play on their teams. You see it in with the Clippers. Norman Powell won a championship with Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors, and he's now on that Clippers team. So relationships in the NBA, as you mentioned, is very important.
NBA insider Brandon Scoopy Robinson from Bally Sports joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. As always, text board is open 609-403-0973 and your DMs at 97.3 ESPN mobile app. They're free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle. We are taking a break from the Eagles stuff today because, again, part of the reason why we're having these conversations, like I said, it's the week off from the Eagles, and next week is the NBA trade deadline. And before we hit the break, I want to ask you this really quick. Tell me a team that everyone listening right out there, maybe they've been so focused, like I said, on the Eagles and Giants and everything else going on in the football world, they don't know with basketball. So who's the team that you say, watch this team? They're going to do something.
The Dallas Mavericks.
And it's not because of the mural that was put up, right?
No.
I say that just for those who don't know, there was a guy in the Dallas area who painted a mural demanding that Mark Cuban help Luka out.
I spent some the last couple of weeks has been crazy travel-wise for me. And one of the stops that I made, I went from Paris went to Philly, went to Paris, went to Dallas, and came back to Philly. And I spent some significant time in Dallas, and spent some time with them even last month. The Dallas Mavericks are a team that you should look at, as well as the New Orleans Pelicans. The name that I keep hearing in NBA circles quite a bit is OG Anunoby. I know that not only are the Knicks as well as the Miami Heat having some interest, but the New Orleans Pelicans have the assets to make moves. And if you paid attention to, I think I was on the show around the trade deadline, the Pelicans were successful at the trade deadline last year,
right?
Bringing in CJ McCollum. And, they're looking to make moves. And from all my indicators is that Herb Jones could be on the move if OG Anunoby is brought in. To me, the Lakers are looking to retool, but just because the Lakers may want someone doesn't mean that they have to give them up. But I do think that the Rui Hachimura move was a prudent move, particularly because they now own his bird rights and can sign him outright. But I think that this Lakers project is going to be a project that's going to last about a year.
It's
this
definitely
offseason.
a project.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a project. But those are some of the things that I am hearing. The Dallas Mavericks, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Toronto Raptors are teams that are looking to make something happen by the trade deadline.
Talk more NBA coming up next, because I promise we're going to get into a little bit of Markelle Fultz. And I'm going to explain to folks on the other side, what does Fultz and Kyrie have to do with each other? Well, we're going to get into that next, because, as I said, there's something about NBA players that we don't talk about enough in sports media. So we're going to do that next here on Game Night, along with NBA insider Brendan Scoop B Robinson. I'm Josh Hennig, hanging out with you on the final day of January here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football.
Fly, Eagles, fly!
The Eagles will face Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. Pre-game coverage begins Super Sunday at 4 with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner calling all the action starting at 6:30. This is where the Philadelphia Eagles play, and this is where you can listen to Super Bowl 57, 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's official Eagles station.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Booking Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Action Matters is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention all women who use Tylenol or other medications containing acetaminophen, including NyQuil or Dayquil, while pregnant. If you or a loved one took Tylenol, Excedrin, NyQuil, Dayquil, and other over-the-counter pain relievers while pregnant, and your child was later diagnosed with autism, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-718-2034 now. A recent study from the National Institute of Health suggests use of the popular pain or cold medications during pregnancy may be linked to a higher risk of having a baby with autism. New and emerging lawsuits claim that manufacturers knew of this risk and failed to properly warn pregnant women of the potential harm for their unborn children. If you or a loved one took Tylenol or other popular pain relief medications containing acetaminophen while pregnant and your child was diagnosed with autism, you may be entitled to significant cash compensation. Call 800-718-2034 now. Don't wait. Time is limited to file a claim. Call 800-718-2034. That's 800-718-2034. 800-718-2034.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
Marcus, what happened?
I was changing my oil and I spilled some on the floor.
Oh, well, use these $50 bills to wipe it up.
Perfect. Got any more?
Yeah, take a couple hundred.
Stop. Instead of using money, use an old rag. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
When you can't stop, there's Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub sends powerful medicated Vicks vapors right to the source of your... so you can experience cough relief and breathe easier. Generations of families have trusted Vicks VapoRub to help relieve the worst cold symptoms. So next time you have a cough, reach for the Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub. Cough relieving is believing.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews choose among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right, you don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait, text PLACE to 200-300.
Hi, Merrill Reese from Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism in Sea Isle City. The Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism has been promoting awareness and raising funds for special service schools and families of special needs children. Come join over 5,000 participants in the 5K race and the Family Fun Walk, followed by a huge after party. Join us in huge heated tents where they'll have great food, unbelievable door prizes, and the award ceremony. The party is not just for runners or walkers, it's for the entire family. They'll have clowns, superheroes, and face painters for the kids. For more information or to register, go to polarbearrunwalkforautism.com.
Mike's Seafood Run Walk for Autism is Saturday, February 18th at JFK and the Boardwalk in Sea Isle City. Registration is from 9:30 to 11:30. Run Walk starts at noon.
Any day you can do something for children with disabilities, it's a good day.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All segment of the hour here on Game Night. Josh Hennig along with the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Scoopy Robinson. The NBA Insider is in the studio with me tonight, hanging out, talking some basketball. As promised, I want to get to Markelle Fultz. Because when I look at Fultz, I see the way he was treated here in Philadelphia. And I see a similar element to what I saw with Kyrie Irving, which is there is a large segment of society that treats athletes like machines. Mm-hmm. They don't treat them like people. And it's not a skin color thing. It's a disconnect thing. Mm-hmm. It's the idea that I buy your jersey. So if Roger Clemens doesn't have 20 strikeouts tonight, he stinks. I bought your jersey. So if Allen Iverson doesn't get 30 points tonight, he may be mad. And that attitude gets projected on these athletes many times. And I loved last night hearing Fultz talk about his faith, talking about how it carried him through, about how he still loves Philadelphia, how it was such an important part of his life and his development and growth. And it was just an amazing reminder of, like, these are human beings. These are people who go through life experiences and are coming out on the other end just like the rest of us.
And they're young.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Markelle specifically because of just how he was out of here, and injury that was very tricky, but also the Philly fans are not always kind, respectfully.
Sure.
And I'll just say that I liked Orlando as a destination for him because it's so under the radar, and it allowed him to grow. And when I look at Markelle Fultz, I see a man who, as you mentioned, his faith bringing him through, but also the right supporting cast. Him being from the East Coast himself and playing in Philly, hop, skip, and jump from where he's from. Orlando is a lot more low-key, a lot more calmer, and he's in a good situation because they're a young team that they're looking to build in the future. And I'll add, when I look at Markelle's story, I look at that being on the heels of the process era of the Sixers, which, looking back on it, yeah, you got Joel, but there's so many other casualties to that whole thing. And I actually had this conversation with Nerlens Noel.
Casualties is a good word, by the way.
Listen, man, I try to add some words to my dialogue when I come on shows such as yourself. But I'll add this. I think that in my conversation with Nerlens, I asked him, what does the process mean to you? And, he kind of just paused. I have a partnership with Bovada, and it'll be coming out pretty soon, and you can check it out. Shameless plug. But when you look at just the process that is Philly, a name that sticks out to me, just like Markelle Fultz, is Jahlil Okafor. People threw him under the bus with driving on the Ben Franklin and being a kid from Chicago moving to another metropolitan city. And I really look at today's NBA and I see so many Jahlil Okafors. And you wonder, what if he had stayed? Where would we be? And so I think 20-something, 19-something, like, I think a lot of times tall black males who make a lot of money, who you buy their jersey, it's like this envy, but it's also like this, you owe me something because I didn't hit my parlay.
Right.
And it's a give and a take, because I understand your frustration, but they're at work. How would you like it if they called your job on the phone and harassed you all day?
Well, it's also the aspect that they are celebrities and their lives are playing out in the real world. There are tons of people who think and feel and go through different things, but their lives aren't played out on social media in front of 15 million Instagram subscribers, or they're not seen on television every night. You know what I mean? So I think there's an element of voyeurism to it.
It's the price you pay for fame.
Mm-hmm.
I had this conversation with my best friend. We had dinner the other night, and we both agreed that the price you pay for fame is criticism. But while I agree, I also push back on this. For the one Super Bowl you win, the one Stanley Cup that you win, the one Larry O'Brien trophy that you win, there's 1,000 mistakes that you make to get to that point. And so sometimes when you look at the mistakes you make, how you got there, the blood, sweat, and tears, you kind of appreciate the down years.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Markelle Fultz, I feel like Philly made me tougher. To go to Orlando, you're going to tell your war stories to Mickey and Minnie. Pluto, maybe. Donald Duck, maybe. I don't know. But I think Markelle Fultz is in a very good situation in Orlando, along their head coach, Jamal Mosley. I got a chance to speak with him last night. And I really like that Orlando team. And I'll add this. You didn't ask me, I'll tell you. You look at the future of Bronny James. And when I look at whatever he decides he's going to do, and if he is a package deal with his father, I know LeBron has talked about how he didn't like Orlando, or at least I won't say he didn't like Orlando. I'll say that his experience in the bubble gave him an overexposure to Orlando.
Understandable.
I don't sleep on the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, or return to Cleveland if he ultimately leaves the Los Angeles Lakers.
I mean, selfishly, I would pick the Cavs, but that's just me as a sports fan.
Surely.
Really quick, at a side note, the dumbest trophy in sports is Larry O'Brien trophy. It should be renamed. The fact that they named the trophy after a commissioner who actually was not very good, when David Stern was the commissioner who made the NBA what we know today, but we named it after a guy who literally got the job because he had crony politician friends who got him the job. It just rubs me wrong.
Yeah, I know that the NBA is very keenly aware of history. It almost feels like oftentimes
Do you know what the NBA needs really quick? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
I've told this to other people before. You know how Ken Burns made the baseball documentary?
Uh-huh.
There needs to be an NBA one like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much about NBA history that people have no idea about.
I'll tell you, the ABA-NBA merger to me is one of those things that I think many people don't appreciate. Like the Pacers, the Spurs, the Nets, the Nuggets. Those teams are so significant to the fabric and the infrastructure of the NBA. And even Dr. J and why he's a 76er.
Yeah.
Because, the Long Island Nets became the New Jersey Nets, and by way of playing at Rutgers University and then finding their way to the Brendan Byrne Arena. And Dr. J came to Philly and did his thing. But many people look at, people know Dr. J's a Net, but people universally look at him as a 76er.
Absolutely.
And just that history, it needs to be discussed more.
Yeah, Dr. J versus Mr. Thompson in the slam dunk competition. I mean, that's a huge part of NBA history. Really quick because we're running out of time here in real estate, I said I was going to connect this to Kyrie. So I said this a couple weeks ago before you came on. I love the fact that Kyrie got into the NBA All-Star game through voting, because it did give me some faith back in humanity. That people, despite there is a faction of people who treat these athletes like machines and stuff, there is still a large fraction of people out there, maybe not enough of them, but there are some people who say, hey, I appreciate and respect Kyrie, the man.
Yeah. Most people don't have the access to get to know Kyrie, the man. As a member of the media, I've been blessed to know him outside of just the basketball player. And know his history as with his father. Our families go back 30 years. And the one thing I do know is that he's legitimately living his dream, and hopefully they take it to the next level.
Well, an hour flies by quick here on Game Night. As you can see, the NBA insider Brandon Scoop B. Robinson in studio today. I think we covered a lot of real estate today.
Heck yeah.
At Scoop B on Twitter, Scoop B Experience on Instagram, Scoop B Radio. Like, subscribe, download wherever you get your podcast. Also, don't forget on Spotify, you can give reviews now, so you get a 5-star review.
Thank you
for that. That's a part of the conversation as well. My friend, it was great to see you.
You as well.
Keep up the great work. You're one of the good guys in the business. I appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be myself.
I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app.
Health update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Sarcopenia, a fancy word that simply means age-related muscle loss. After age 30, we begin to lose as much as 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade.